Hi, I'm Robert. Welcome back to another On the Road video brought to you by ApplianceVideo.com. Stop. Before you begin any repair, unplug the appliance from the wall outlet. It is also recommended that you check for proper voltage. I'm Robert with ApplianceVideo.com. Today we're working on a GE Monogram built-in double oven. We'll be replacing the door hinges on the bottom door. As you can see, the bottom door is not closing all the way. It should be like that. And then when you open the door, it wants to drop all the way to the floor, which means that the springs in the hinges are broken or out of place. We're going to start the repair. I've already removed the mounting screws that hold it into the cabinet. To complete this repair, you will need a number 2 Phillips screwdriver and vice grips. To remove the door, we're going to grasp the sides and the handle and pull straight up and away. And we'll set that aside. At this point, I'm going to pull the unit out from the wall a bit. Okay. So I'll just wiggle it back and forth. So you can see this side panel is actually the hinge receiver, and you got to unscrew the screws around it to get it loose enough to access the other screws that actually hold the hinge in place. Then once you extend your hinge and lock it, you can move the panel the rest of the way back. Once it's out, I'm going to transfer the hinge receiver onto the new hinge. All right, so we'll unscrew the screws that mount the hinge to the receiver. And lastly, screw on the bottom. And on the other side on the bottom. And then we'll slide the hinge out. In order to successfully install the new hinge, you have to get the hinge, the portion that goes up through the door, sticking straight out and locked in place. Then insert into the receiver and install your screws. Again, I'm going to start with the bottom screws because they're one on either side in the same exact spot. So that makes kind of a pivot hinge out of it. And then I can get the frontal screws in. Now we'll get the 2 front screws. Start with the top. Then the bottom. Then we'll install the entire assembly. By sliding it back beside the oven and then bringing it through the slot in the front. So it may be easier to slide it back out. Bring it in on an angle. Like so. Gives yourself leverage so that the tab side could slide down in place. And then we'll reinstall our screws for the receiver. Now we're going to go to the opposite side and repeat the process. On the left side hinge, there is a light switch, a door light switch. So we're removing the 2 mounting screws and sliding the bracket out. And you can see we have a sail switch. They call it a sail switch because of this large stretch of metal that's connected to the switch. Okay, so the switch is now removed from its mounting plate. And we're going to tuck that back inside the receiver. And move the receiver back. Now that the switch is out of the receiver, I can finish moving it out of position. Okay, so what we're going to do here is remove the screws that hold the hinge into the receiver. I'm going to slide the hinge out. And now we'll insert the new hinge now that we have it fully extended and locked. Now we're ready to reinstall the receiver. The only difference with this one is about halfway through installing it, I'm going to start dropping that sail switch down through it so that we can get it in position. So we want to get that hinge back far enough so we can get it into the slot and then slide it forward. In and down. Now, before we get it all the way forward at the top, we're going to take and slide our sail switch back down through the receiver. And as you bring it down, you want to pull it through and out. Now once you have it there and hanging in place, bring the rest of your receiver forward. Line up your screw holes. We'll install the screws. Now, before we move the oven to get the screws in the back side of the receiver, we're going to put the door/light switch back into position. Okay, so now that we have our switch in position, because basically the back side of the hinge is going to come back and make this sail switch. So you want that sail switch pointing upward, and we've got the indented portion of this bracket facing outward, otherwise your electrical connectors would short against it. Now we're going to install the nuts. Now we're going to rotate the switch into place. What we're going to do is pull down on the harness, tuck the sail of the switch in, and then we have to tuck this part of the bracket in to the receiver. So I kitty cornered it, got one corner in, and then rotated it. And now I'm ready to install my screws. And I'm going to just get them started by hand. Now I'm going to move the oven back out just a little bit on this side. And we'll finish screwing the screw in. And the top. We're going to lift up on the front of the oven and gently slide it back. We're going to go in a little on each side, making sure that nothing gets caught or clipped. Install the stop screw at the end of this hinge here. These are basically spacers for the oven door, so that it'll only go down so far on the hinges. And we're going to install the two mounting screws that were in play before we started. And now that we have our mounting screws installed, what we're going to do is we're going to press down on each hinge. You want to use caution when doing this because the springs are heavy tension springs. So you're going to put your weight down on it using leverage, bring the lock tab back down, and then slowly let the hinge come back so that when it gets to the stopping point, it stops and doesn't override. your stop point. And now we're ready to reinstall the door. You can see there's a slot at the bottom of the door. There's one on each side, and you need to get those completely over the hinges so that the hinges go inside the door. And then once you have the door completely seated, you're going to pull it open and note that it rests flat, it's not sagging down, and then close the door. And note that the door is fully sealed and flush with the rest of the oven. And that completes the repair. Thank you for watching another quality video brought to you by ApplianceVideo.com.